Hey guys, welcome to the Buck Brief. First time on the show, Michelle Moons Dawi is with us. She formerly worked in the Trump White House, a special assistant to President Trump at the time. Maybe again in the future. A lot of things coming together right now about who's going to be doing what. Let's start with this, Michelle. Welcome. How do you think the picks are coming together so far? Any surprises? What are the highlights? This Trump cabinet. What are your feelings about it as somebody who's seen the inner workings of the White House with this president now just going into 2.0?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. It is an exciting time, and they are coming rapid fire, so it's fun every day watching them come in. I think that he's got some amazing picks, a lot of surprises along the way. You've got a mix of different realms coming in. So, for example, the Pete Hegseth pick, I don't think anyone had him on the list, and that's not the people that we were talking about, but there he was. Some others have been surprises too, but I would say just very solid. It's emblematic of really the resounding mandate that the American people had for us um, on election day, which was they wanted change. They wanted the economy to get back to what we had under Trump. They wanted more peace. And that's a pitch we made, my husband and I, in Michigan, as we had gone up there and just on our own campaigned for Trump and registered in under 3 weeks over 1,000 people and convinced a bunch more to vote for Trump within the Middle Eastern community up there, which is very,
Ooh, talk
very
to me
big.
about this.
So,
Was a big thing, right? Because
mhm.
there were concerns from the Kamala campaign that there were concerns, obviously, about the Muslim American community, specifically in Michigan. I think more broadly across the United States, and how they were going to vote in this election cycle. Uh, some even said that this is why she didn't go with Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania as her running mate. They've never confirmed that, but it certainly seemed to add up based on the analysis. What were people telling you when you were on the ground before this monumental election, registering people, particularly people of Middle Eastern descent? They're voting this election. What were their feelings? Like, what were you picking up from them? What was the media narrative accurate, basically, that they were very dissatisfied with Kamala, and why?
Yeah, so they were, I would say a predominant word that we would hear is hate. They hated Kamala Harris.
Wow.
Hate. There was a move for people to push towards Jill Stein as a third party candidate. We were really making the case that they should vote Trump, that he brought more peace, that under his presidency previously, that he was not starting new wars. We had more peace and we had more prosperity, and those were two major issues. A third issue was parental rights, very big in this community. Now, I don't want to conflate it because I had friends in conservative media not understanding why this group was so supportive of Trump. Now, you've got a more Muslim Middle Eastern American community, and then the Chaldean community, which is more Christian. And so, in one of the areas where we were doing tabling for registering people out front of a couple of grocery stores, a New York Post reporter came by and he actually wrote about our efforts. And the words he used were blown away at the response that we were getting at these tables. So, a couple of things. One, from the Chaldean community, very enthusiastic for Trump. That there were two aspects of what he was blown away about. One, we didn't have to convince them to register. And so they were coming up to us. There were times where there were lines. People were in line to register to vote for Trump. We had a Trump cutout, life size cutout that they would take pictures with, families. We even sent someone down. There was a woman that came by and said, "My 102-year-old mother's dying wish is to vote for Donald Trump to see him back in the White House, and she prays for him every day." So we sent someone down there to register, her and her friend, who pray for President Trump every day. And they didn't want any sort of publicity out of it. They sent us videos just for our own awareness, showing them praying for him. And so, really, the enthusiasm was amazing. Now, you had a slightly different approach in the Muslim community, Muslim Middle Eastern American communities. And again, these are all American citizens that we were registering to vote. Some were already registered, but some of them needed to be convinced a little more, but they didn't have to be convinced not to want Harris. They hated Harris. And
Why?
so really part of it is they looked at the unrest in the Middle East that has been going on, that she couldn't stop it. And it's funny, there was something that she tried to make a point of, I think it was during the debate, where she said, I went over 3 days. This is not Middle East, this is with Ukraine. But she said, I went over there 3 days before the war broke out and was, negotiating, and then came back. And we go, I'm watching her argument and going, well, so you weren't a very good negotiator because war broke out with you at the helm. So it just goes to show you that she can't solve these problems and the wars will just continue on, whereas Trump will work to stop the wars in the Middle East and other places abroad. So that was something that they were really receptive to. I would say that was their number one issue is just wanting more peace. It wasn't that you had to promise them anything in particular other than, look, we had more peace under Trump. So you can throw away your vote on a third party candidate, but we encourage you. Plus, Trump brings prosperity, was another major issue for them, and the parental rights, very big. We've seen news stories where Muslims and Christian parents are marching side by side outside of schools because of the curriculum and the fact that the schools have not let people pull their own children out of certain classes. And so you've seen that in our country, outside of schools, that they're side by side. So on certain issues, you really see that what Trump promises and what he has delivered in the previous 45 administration was these main three things.
I could just get you to move a little to your left, so you're in the center of a little more, there we
Yep.
go. Perfect. Wonderful. Thank you.
Hey, yes.
So we're gonna go. We're gonna come back here. I want you to tell us what it's like inside the White House. Just give us a day to day, because I think a lot of people are curious, like how will all these different pieces that are being put in place by Trump, all these individuals, some very big names, some big egos, like how does all that interplay work? I think people are curious to see how that goes. But from our sponsor here, Chaikin Analytics, look, there's a Wall Street veteran, Mark Chaikin, who's been doing this for 50 years, who notices that, yeah, sure, or acknowledges, yeah, sure, Trump's won, so the economy's looking like it's going to be on a tear, but you got to know where to be to get the maximum value out of your investments. And he sees things and has a track record of seeing things that others don't. Chaikin Analytics is his company, and he sees a potential buying spree on 5,000 different stocks that could happen before those stocks all have the big run up. He thinks it could double your portfolio. Look, don't take my word for it. I don't even know. I don't know what stocks he's talking about. I don't do this stuff. He's the expert. Go to stocks2025.com. Watch his presentation for yourself. That's stocks2025.com, stocks2025.com, paid for by Chaikin Analytics. All right. Now, what's it like? I mean, you were in the White House before. You'll maybe be in it again. Who knows? We don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but might be some stuff going on. Tell me, the day-to-day of it, is it something that you would say it's like people would expect from watching The West Wing? Like, how would you describe it?
I mean, I don't know that I would compare it to any particular TV show, but it is, let's just say, as what we call a SAP, a special assistant to the president. That's you usually have like two titles in that realm, but you are basically considered on 24/7. It could be a 12-hour day. You could have a normal day, but it is hard charging all the time and working hard for the president. There's a lot to get done. And I will say that I ended pretty much every day. I would come home and tell my husband, I love my job. because
Really?
you are having, because you're having an effect tangibly on the leadership of this country. So obviously, President Trump leading the charge, but you've got so many people within the administration working on these policies. And I will say, before, I had never worked in government before whatsoever. And I had my own suspicions of the bureaucracy of government. I will say, on the bureaucracy end, it's probably worse than even I thought it was. Just the slow workings of things, but that Trump is a change maker, and he was able to empower people to make things happen. So we were able to push certain things. On the same token, there are certain policies that I will tell you run through both sides of the aisle. There's a like there's a missing and murdered women executive order that we worked on, and that's something that I've seen worked on by multiple administrations on both sides of the aisle. There are things that cross the aisle. But we were working. I went to LA at one point, and we were trying to work on homelessness and tackle that issue. And it was that Trump would empower our teams to work with people who were not just other Republicans. I mean, that was to going into LA, that was is a very deep blue area. But
What's the
to
best thing? I
try
mean, like
and
if you
tackle
could
different
actually get Gavin
problems.
Newsom. Sorry, I think this is interesting. If you get Gavin Newsom to actually listen, uh, to reason on handling. He had this whole. You've probably seen this clip. It's become kind of famous now, where he talked about like tackling the homelessness crisis in his Gavin Newsom way, like 3 buttons down on his dress shirt. A lot of just got his tan from Malibu. He's like, we're going to tackle the homeless crisis, and then sure enough, it's got nothing but worse. Like since that was a big initiative of his, the homelessness crisis has only gotten worse every single year, like without fail. The numbers are staggering. What would you tell him to actually do to turn that at least in the other direction, right? It will take a long time to fix. It'll probably never be entirely fixed, but how do you make improvements there?
Well, it's a lot to tackle in a couple of minutes, but I will say that they were taking large dollar amounts to do things like they set up these like shipping containers as sort of little mini apartments,
Yeah.
and they were spending, as I recall it, somewhere around $500,000 for these things. And I'm going, they didn't have a good sense, and this is where the Doge Elon Musk group is just really exciting as part of the new administration. Is that you know government tends to take something that shouldn't cost that much if it were done by private industry, and makes it cost exponentially more. So there are things that can be done, and frankly, we toured one shelter that is being run by charitable organizations. It's not government run, and they, in many ways, were able to show care for people, and they had to run a tight ship in the middle of Skid Row. I mean, we toured Skid Row as part of our
Right.
time there. So really, it's there's definitely a sense of needing to deal with the mental health situation. Since there has been a move away from um, dealing with mental health in a tactful way. A lot of these people, either from drugs or just mental health issues, are out on the streets.
Right.
In addition to veteran homelessness is almost its own nuanced issue, because a lot of veterans are very proud that they served their country. They don't want to take handouts, and so you have to deal with that community even differently. So not get into all the details, but it's a nuanced issue for the different segments of the homeless population.
Right. No, it's definitely a complicated issue, and it's something that I experienced and saw in New York for many years and saw it get worse. It's just
Mhm.
remarkable for Gavin Newsom to spend as much money as they spend and as much time talking about it, and for it to just keep getting worse. Clearly, whatever they're doing is not working, but they will keep
Well, and
doing it
losing
and keep,
money.
yeah, and
They've
keep
lost
spend.
track of
Right. They don't even
tons of
know.
money.
I mean, I think it was San Francisco that was building the $1 million outdoor toilet, or like public toilet. It was $1 million. It was basically a
Oh no,
glorified
I've
porta
seen
potty.
them.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
had them in on Skid, like right around Skid Row. It was a self-cleaning unit.
Yes.
I believe these ones were about $500,000. So they self-clean. They had to place people monitors outside of these toilets because, and they have a little sign up for people because they had a problem with people murdering people inside of the toilets
Oh my
and
God.
using it for
Drugs, all the
I would
things,
say
right?
street work and
Oh,
drugs.
yeah, yeah,
So they had someone, and they were using like they call them lifers from people who have been in prison,
sure.
as the person taking, giving them something to do, and by taking names on the thing and letting people in and out of this $500,000 toilet on the street.
Yeah. All
Good
right,
use of
we're gonna come back in here. I want to ask you. You work and you know the domestic policy side, the immigration deportation thing. You game to talk about that a little bit, like how that comes
sure,
together
yeah,
and what that looks like. All right, we'll get to that in a second here.
yeah,
Look, you want to be able to protect yourself. Our sponsor here is Sabre and the pepper projectile launcher that they sell. It's incredible. I've been out at the range training with it before. It's a non-lethal choice. I mean, I got a lot of guns, but I also have my Sabre pepper projectile launcher. Gives you options. And for some people, they want to have those options, force escalation reasons, or they're just not comfortable using a firearm. So this is a time to check out what Sabre's got. Pepper sprays, gels, stun guns, backed by Sabre's maximum strength guarantee. They're the #1 pepper spray brand trusted by law enforcement. And they've also got the pepper. They got the pepper spray, the stun gun. They've got amazing products. Go to sabreradio.com, SABRE radio.com for a full look at all the safety options for your family this holiday season. Join the millions who have already trusted Sabre. It's Sabre Radio, SABRE, sabreradio.com. That's sabreradio.com. Are they really going to do these deportations, you think? Are they really going to be able to go
yeah.
through with this? They'll be able to, they're going for it. What does that look like?
I think it's a matter of prioritizing, right? So we've got a lot of people that a lot of people who are known criminals from other countries, and I think you start there to make sure that you protect people. Like, we just got the results of the Lake and Riley trial and the devastation that that's brought to a family. And let me tell you, back in my journalism days, I was one at the forefront of reporting on the angel parents. There's one woman, Sabina Durden, who had kind of given up telling her story to reporters because no one would tell it. And I said, "Tell me your story. I promise you, I will print it. I will put it out." And I did. And since then, she, in 2016, spoke on the floor of the Republican convention. It became such an issue that was at the forefront that there are Americans that are losing family members when those family members should still be around. And people say, "Oh, well, there's crime here in the U.S. already. It's not just the illegal aliens." The reality is, you're talking about people that shouldn't be here in the first place. So if those people commit crimes while they're already here when they're not supposed to be, all the more that person should still be here. Sabina lost her only son at the hands of an illegal alien, and so many more, so many more. I've told the stories when I was a journalist, and you just watch these people, and nothing can ever change that. Nothing can bring their family member back. No amount of justice. And then the reality is, because of the way our justice system, in particular, I am actually from California originally, so I understand, you mentioned Gavin Newsom and all that. I understand the state, and they will use prosecutorial discretion in that state to charge certain people, illegal aliens, with lower crimes in order to make sure that they're not triggering a point at which they would be uh, deported for those. So that does happen in places like California, and we need to put an end to things like that. We need to be able to deport people who have committed crimes abroad already and made it here. We're seeing, and people get down to saying, "Oh, you're targeting one people from one country or another." It's not. It's people from all over the world, and we need to get a control over it. And this is part of that. So Tom Hallman, who was a great choice to help be part of that, to head that up, he, I believe, will take it on. And we're going to have to see how it all plays out. I'm sure it's going to be demonized by the corporate media, but
Every deportation is going to be a grandma who's just been, you know, uh, volunteering at the local puppy shelter for the last 20 years and, has a big, beautiful family and just wants to live the American dream. Every single one, even the MS-13 gang members with like tattoos on their faces and all over their bodies who have like killed people, they're actually going to be magically transformed into grandmas who just want to love puppies and stay in America and live the American dream. I can tell you, I mean, I know you worked in media, so that is going to happen for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Let me tell you about one Border Patrol agent that I used to talk to. His family was originally from Ecuador, and his father came legally, started a cab company. He was a Border Patrol agent, and he goes, my sister can't even get here right now through the legal system. It's so backed up. He said, but I sit there every day and I watch people come over the border. And he's like, to the point where we at some levels, this is his description, we're doing the work of the smugglers. We're picking these people up and bringing them further into the country for the smugglers. And it was so demoralizing that he went, I think I'm going to have to switch back to just, working at just ports of entry. Because he's like, I can't do this every day where I'm watching. And that's why you saw a massive support from the Border Patrol Union. I mean, from the Border Patrol Union for President Trump, because he backs them up and he empowers them to do their job. Their job is tough. Let me tell you, I've been on that border. I've been there at night, at day. I've been on the official tours of the border and the non-official tours of the border. And they have a tough job. They're getting down in the mud. They are exposed to different things, and
I also think it's deeply
control on it.
It's deeply demoralizing for them when people think of Border Patrol in this sort of old, I would say, 90s, early 2000s context of single adult males, overwhelmingly from Mexico, running across the border to make it to the United States. And does Border Patrol catch them or not? That's not the day-to-day reality at all, and hasn't been for years now because of these various, I know you know this, but just for our audience, they will walk up. I've seen this. I'm sure you've seen it too, in a group of 20, 50, 100 people, and they wave Border Patrol down. And they say, I'm here to claim asylum. Where is my, bring me my sandwich and my Coca-Cola. And it's just like that. I mean, there's no
airplane flight.
Yeah, and my airplane flight, but I mean, they're walking, they're trying to find Border Patrol. This is what people understand. They're like, where's Border Patrol? Because they're like my cab and Uber Eats service. And then we ask Border Patrol to deal with that problem, and then also make sure that, cartels aren't smuggling huge amounts of drugs, killing huge amounts of Americans, which of course they're doing. So yeah, I mean, it's an absolute disaster, and I think it's the single, honestly,
human trafficking. I mean, really, Buck, the human trafficking is one of the worst parts, and it's been highlighted now, and it's coming to light how many of these children that so many people said, oh, the children, the separation, but these children have been lost under the Biden administration. These unaccompanied alien children, that is the formal term. I know that you are familiar with the formal terms. And we don't know where they are. And frankly, there is a lot of human trafficking going on. That issue has been highlighted overall, the Sound of Freedom movie and all of that. But these are children that are just missing, just gone. So, and frankly, a lot of those children are oftentimes used at the border by people who are not family members to cross, saying that they're a family unit.
Yeah, they're props. I know, because
adult male grabs one of the kids and comes across.
There's different rules. There's different rules for family units, so they recycle. That's what they call it. That's what the Border Patrol, I know, calls it. They recycle these kids, and so a kid comes across, and they'll actually bring the kid back on the other side. The kid will come across again. I mean, they're using children as effectively props so that adults can scam the immigration system. And the thing is, this, I know this. DHS under Biden, they knew this too. I mean, everyone knows this, but they just pretend, meaning the Democrats in charge for the last 4 years, that they don't know that this is what's going on and that the whole system isn't being scammed. So that's why when people say it's not an open border, look at all the resources there. No, it is an open border. I mean, you can cut if you know anything, and I mean, if you can just like find a smuggler, not even a smuggler, a cartel member, a coyote, whatever to talk to, you'll find a way to get into America. It's not hard at all. So one more sponsor here. It's from our friends at IFCJ. Look, it's been tough for Israel recently, and there's lots of moments where they've wondered who are our allies, who are our friends. That's where IFCJ has stepped in. For over 40 years, the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews has been on the ground helping the vulnerable, and providing for Jews in both Israel and Jews in Ukraine. Thank you for your support during this critical time. Your gift helps the fellowship provide food, necessities, and security to those most in need. Standing with Israel and the Jewish people has never meant so much. Go to supportifcj.org to learn more and make a gift now. That's supportifcj.org. Michelle, appreciate you being with us here on the show. Any closing thoughts about what your expectations are for Trump 2.0? You're going to be, you and the husband going to be hitting some big inauguration parties. What are you seeing?
We'll see about that. We do have 2 small children. Would love to do that. We'll just see where it leads. Would love to see my husband in particular make it somewhere in there because he is a Middle East expert, which is why he was so able to talk to these people in Michigan and show them why Trump is the candidate for them. We stood up a PAC just in order to be able to do that work, the Conservative American Middle Eastern PAC. So it's CAMEPAC.com, camepac.com. And took donations where we could, but we spent thousands of our own money and time away from work for my husband to be able to accomplish that and make sure that Trump got elected. Now, we saw a resounding victory, and that was awesome, but I was not going to stand by and see what I saw happen in 2020, where, a story for another day, but I was back in the White House after being on maternity leave, and I was trying to convince Alyssa Farah how important the messaging on COVID was, and got, a little into that subject. And let me tell you, it did, there were certain people that were just not dealing with it. And the president was doing his best. And I will say that, unfortunately, I ended up going over to, fortunately, because it was a good experience, but over at SBA with Jovita Carranza at the time. And we were able to really get out there and talk to a lot of small business owners and what they were going through and message that. But I really see this time around more very loyal to the president. I see people that are change makers, and I'm really excited to see on January 1 where we go. He's building a great team. I think we have more surprises to come, if anything. Thus far is an indicator, but I look at people like Carolyn Levitt, the youngest press secretary ever, and she has been right there with him the whole way, or a long time on this campaign, really making sure that messaging gets out and being strong in it. And so I'm excited to see people like this. Stephen Miller's back from the prior administration. I've heard rumors of other people, but RFK Jr. at HHS.
There's a lot of stuff to be excited about. Michelle Moons Dawi, appreciate you being with us. Thank you so much for joining for the podcast.
Thanks so much.